because I'd say the only team that impressed me even more than Georgia did yesterday was Alabama. And it makes no sense why I'm impressed by Alabama, because nothing that they've done is new to college football or new to things that I've seen from Alabama, because Alabama has been the dynasty in college football the last however many years that Nick Saban's been there. There's no question about it. Everyone knows that Alabama is the dynasty in college football. So why am I shocked? Why am I constantly being reminded that Alabama, and why does the nation have to constantly be reminded that Alabama is still the best team in college football? I doubted them. I'm not saying that I was going out here saying that they were going to lose to Miami and stuff like that, but I was not sure about how Alabama was going to rebound after losing all the pieces that they did last year. Now, I ranked Bryce Young my third best quarterback in the SEC, which so many people did not agree with. And this is kind of going to be my little moment of me bragging, but you look at the other guys who you look at as the best quarterbacks in all of college football. Sam Howell, 1 touchdown. 3 interceptions this weekend. You look at other guys like Spencer Rattler. You look at other guys like, who else could I mention? DJ Uiagalelei, who many people are like, oh, Heisman favorite. You look at a guy like JT Daniels. All of these guys who you're like, oh, they're way better than Bryce Young. Why are you so high on Bryce Young? Bryce Young is terrible. Like, this kid hasn't even played a game yet. Not that they've said he's terrible. I don't know if you can hear about that, but the trains in Columbia here are terrible. And I got trains going off every single second, so please excuse the noise. But not saying that people say Bryce Young is a terrible quarterback, but everyone was like, this kid's so overrated. Let me read you his stat lines. 27 for 38, 344 yards, 9.1 yards per play, and 4 touchdowns with a 94.2 QBR. Welcome to the league, Bryce Young. And let's not remember, Alabama wasn't just going up against some nobodies. They were going up against the Miami Hurricanes, who were ranked 14th in the nation, and Alabama was able to hang 44 points on them. Talk about the receiver core, because obviously when you talk about this receiver core, the main guys that pop into your head is obviously John Mechie, who did have a good game yesterday, 6 receptions, 76 yards for 1 touchdown in that game. But the guy who really stood out to me, Ohio State transfer Jameson Williams. Do you remember him? Do you remember that massive wide receiver room that Ohio State had, where you look at guys like Chris Olave, who had an amazing game on Thursday night? Yes, that's when they played. You look at Garrett Wilson, you look at Jackson Smith-Njigba, you look at Julian Fleming, and there's this guy just named Jameson Williams kind of lingering around in that wide receiver room, who people knew he had talent, but he's just not one of those names that pop into your head when you talk about the Ohio State wide receiver room. He transfers to Alabama. And could he have possibly had a better game for the amount of talent that Alabama wide receiver room has, the amount of talent that Bryce Young could have thrown to? Jameson Williams only got 4 receptions in this game, but he was able to average for 31.5 yards per catch with 126 yards and 1 touchdown in that game. And another guy that I want to talk about for Alabama, Cameron Latou, a guy that was talked amazing about in camp. So many people were high on him. He had an amazing game too. 3 receptions for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. So those were all the touchdowns that Bryce Young threw in this game. But I want to talk about this defense. Don't even bring up stats in this game, because Alabama's stats in this game, like, yeah, they were impressive and everything like that. But if you just watch the game, if you just took the time and even watched bits and pieces of the game, I'm not even going to lie, I couldn't watch all of the Alabama game because I was out tailgating and stuff like that, but I had it on my phone and I was watching bits and pieces of it, and even just turning it on for a second and just watching Alabama's defense go to work, it is truly a work of art. The amount of talent that they have, it's so easy for them to swarm to the ball. I feel like it is so easy for Alabama players to get to the ball, and they just finish tackles, and they finish tackles hard. Like, Miami was getting absolutely nowhere on the field. Miami was not scoring anything in the first half. All they put up was 3 points. Now, they did come out in the third quarter and put up 10, but other than that, you shut them out in 2 quarters. You only allow them to score 3 in the second, and then obviously allow them to score 10 in the third. But this Alabama defense, man, I talk about the 2 best defenses in all of college football. I'm talking about the Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm talking about the Alabama Crimson Tide, because the amount of depth that they have at linebacker, for example, when I talk about guys like Henry To'oTo'o, Jalen Moody, talk about guys like Christian Harris, Will Anderson, so much talent on Alabama. And I don't know why I constantly keep doubting Alabama, because they lose Mac Jones, they lose Devontae Smith, they lose Jalen Waddle, they lose him, 5-star, gone. They just reload each and every single season. And you forget you focus too much on the players, but you forget the headman behind the whole scheme of Alabama football, and that is Nick Saban. And as long as Nick Saban is roaming the sidelines for Alabama, it just feels like Alabama is going to be one of the best teams in all of college football year in and year out. So that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. This Alabama team was probably the only team that impressed me more than Georgia because, yes, Georgia played kind of a better defensive game than Alabama did, but this Alabama offense of Bryce Young for his first start ever, going up in it was a big-time game. We can call it a big-time game. You're playing the 14th team in the country. It's a 3:30 game. First week of the season, you're playing in Atlanta, Chick-fil-A kickoff or whatever they call it. It's a big-time game. Go out there, throw a QBR of like 95 up. I think it was like 94.7, but he had an amazing game, 4 touchdowns. No complaints from Bryce Young. He looked absolutely amazing in that game, and he is going to continue. Well, Alabama goes out. I can't remember who they play next week. Here, let me pull it. They play Mercer next week, and then it's the big Florida game. So I think this Bryce Young and Alabama offense is going to be more than ready going into that Florida game, 110%. But Alabama's defense, Alabama really as a whole, impresses me year after year after year after year, guys. Like, it is really that amazing.